Imagine for a second there's this famous child actor, like someone who was absolutely everywhere for a few years.
Oh, right, like defining an entire era of pop culture.
Exactly. Their face is on every magazine, total household name. But then, seemingly overnight, they just completely vanish from the spotlight.
Yeah, you just assume they faded away, right? Like maybe they retired or just couldn't hack it as an adult.
Right. But then, say a decade later, you're watching the Academy Awards, and that exact same person walks onto the stage to accept an Oscar for Best Director.
Wow, yeah, you totally didn't see it coming.
You didn't see it coming at all. But clearly, they've been, mastering this completely new, highly technical craft behind the scenes this whole time. They weren't gone. They were behind the camera.
That captures the element of surprise perfectly. That pivot from being the highly visible face on the screen to the invisible force orchestrating the whole production.
Yeah, it completely rewrites the legacy you thought they had. And today, our deep dive is taking us straight into what might be, the most shocking corporate version of that story in modern tech history.
Absolutely.
We've got our hands on the official Q4 and fiscal year 2026 earnings report, along with the conference call presentation from BlackBerry.
Yes, that BlackBerry.
Right, dated April 9, 2026. The company that used to make the phone with the little physical keyboard you were totally obsessed with.
We all were.
We all were. And our mission today is to explore how they officially transition from this, nostalgic, supposedly defunct smartphone brand to a highly profitable software powerhouse, one that's quietly running our cars, our robots, and global government security.
And looking at the data from these April 2026 sources, the scale of this reinvention is just staggering.
It really is.
This isn't some speculative, like, maybe they will turn it around scenario anymore. The numbers are definitive. They've built an entirely new foundation.
The confidence in these documents is wild. There's this quote in the presentation from CEO John Gianteo that just jumps right off the page.
Oh, the turnaround quote.
Yes. He states, flat out, the turnaround is complete. That is a massive, bold declaration to make to Wall Street.
It really is.
They are telling everyone they are no longer a company in transition trying to figure things out. They are officially a profitable growth company. In Q4 alone, they hit $156.0 million in revenue.
Which is a 10% increase year over year. And that 10% return to top-line growth, that's the true indicator of a completed turnaround.
How so?
Well, it's a known phenomenon in the business world that you can kind of cut costs and shrink your way to temporary profitability. You lay people off, you close offices.
Right, you make the spreadsheet look good for a minute.
Exactly. But starting to actually expand the pie again, capturing new market share after completely changing your core product, that is extraordinarily difficult to pull off.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand exactly how BlackBerry pulled off this Oscar-winning pivot, we have to look under the hood at their most powerful growth engine.
Literally under the hood, in many cases. Their QNX division.
Yes, QNX.
QNX is just the absolute star of this earnings report. To put its performance in perspective, they just achieved a massive financial milestone, hitting what the software industry calls the Rule of 40.
Oh, wow.
And they managed to do it for both Q4 and the entire fiscal year 2026.
Okay, wait. For the listener who might not, spend their weekends reading venture capital blogs, why is the Rule of 40 the holy grail for a software business?
Right. So it comes down to the tension between growth and efficiency. Normally, if a tech company is growing really fast, they are burning piles of cash to do it.
Like spending on marketing, massive R&D, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Conversely, if they're highly profitable, it often means they've stopped investing in growth and are just kind of coasting.
Ah, I see.
So the Rule of 40 takes your revenue growth percentage and adds it to your profit margin. If that combined number equals 40 or higher, you are in elite territory. It proves you can grow rapidly while still generating significant cash.
You're pulling off the magic trick of scaling and saving at the exact same time.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And in QNX's case, the report shows they had 13% revenue growth for the year, combined with an adjusted EBITDA margin of roughly 26%.
So 14 plus 26 gets you to that magic 40.
Right. It validates that QNX isn't just some niche product. It is a highly lucrative foundational operating system that is heavily embedded in the automotive industry.
Okay, let me challenge that business model for a second, though, because this is where I get tripped up when I look at this.
Sure, go ahead.
If I am a legacy automaker like BMW or Mercedes, I have billions of dollars in R&D. I have tens of thousands of engineers. We've all seen Tesla build their own highly integrated software from scratch.
Right.
So why on earth are these legacy automakers paying BlackBerry for a third-party operating system instead of just, building it themselves?
Right. It's the obvious question, right? And the earnings report actually addresses it under what they call the cost of delivery advantage.
Uh,
The comparison to Tesla you just made is actually the perfect way to understand this. Tesla essentially started as a Silicon Valley software company that eventually learned how to uh, bend metal and build cars.
right, they are software first.
Exactly. Legacy automakers like BMW or Mercedes are the exact opposite. They are century-old metal bending and manufacturing experts who are now trying to learn software.
So the DNA of the companies is just fundamentally different.
Fundamentally,
Yeah.
if a legacy original equipment manufacturer, an OEM, tries to build a real-time safety-certified operating system from scratch, they run into massive roadblocks.
Like what?
The sources note significantly higher costs, much longer development timelines, and just insane complexity.
Because we aren't talking about, like, writing code for a cool touchscreen interface to change the radio station.
No, not at all.
Right.
We are talking about the underlying architecture that guarantees the car doesn't crash. This brings us to the technical concept of a microkernel architecture, which is what QNX is actually built on. Imagine the software in your car as a massive cargo ship.
Okay, tracking with you.
In a standard operating system, if a leak springs in the infotainment system, say your Spotify app crashes, the whole ship could flood and take down the braking system.
Which is terrifying to even think about.
Completely unacceptable. But QNX's microkernel architecture essentially builds watertight compartments for every single function.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so if the navigation system totally fails, that compartment is sealed off. The steering, the battery management, the brakes, they just keep functioning without skipping a single microsecond.
Wow.
Achieving the deep global safety and security certifications for that kind of architecture takes years. QNX already has them. So for an automaker, paying BlackBerry is just the cheaper, faster, and much safer route than trying to reinvent the wheel.
And BlackBerry knows they hold all the cards here, which brings us to how they actually monetize this. I mean, they don't just sell a CD-ROM to an automaker for a one-time fee anymore.
No, definitely not.
They use a consumption-based pricing model. Every time a car rolls off the assembly line with QNX inside, BlackBerry earns a royalty. They've essentially built a toll booth on the global automotive assembly line.
And the beauty of a royalty model is the predictability of it. The sources note that this consumption model has driven their QNX royalty backlog to a massive $950 million.
That's nearly $1 billion in guaranteed future revenue just waiting to be realized.
Yeah, it's huge.
And the names they are partnering with are top tier. According to the Q4 highlights, QX technology is being integrated into BMW Group's next-generation new class vehicles.
Right.
Mercedes-Benz is trialing their early access Alloy Core platform. Volvo is using something called QNX Sound for their fully electric EX60 SUV. The ghost of the smartphone era is literally acting as the brain for the next generation of luxury electric vehicles.
Well, I would actually push back on the word brain there.
Oh.
Yeah, QNX isn't really the brain making the complex decisions. It's more like the nervous system.
The nervous system. Okay, explain that.
That distinction becomes really critical when we look at where the earnings report says they are heading next. They're making a strategic push into a much higher stakes frontier called physical AI.
Yes, physical AI. This part of the presentation is mind-bending. Because, when I hear AI, I immediately think of chatbots writing emails.
Sure, most people do. Let's define it using the sources.
Yeah.
Physical AI refers to artificial intelligence systems that act in the real world.
Okay.
We are moving beyond the digital realm of generating text or images and moving into warehouse robots, autonomous vehicles, industrial automation, and even humanoids.
Because an autonomous car is essentially just a 2-ton robot on wheels moving at highway speeds.
Exactly. And this highlights why BlackBerry QNX is so well positioned for this upcoming wave. The report draws a crucial technical distinction between probabilistic AI and QNX's deterministic nature.
This was the light bulb moment for me. A chatbot like ChatGPT is probabilistic. It's essentially playing a highly advanced game of predicting the next most likely word based on statistical patterns, which is completely fine if you're writing a marketing email. But it's terrible for physical reality.
Totally.
If a digital AI hallucinates a poem, it's funny. But if a car's braking system hallucinates at 70 miles per hour, it's fatal.
You absolutely cannot have probability when human lives are at stake. You need determinism. QNX is deterministic.
Yeah.
That means it is mathematically designed to deliver the exact same result every single time down to the microsecond.
Right.
So returning to that nervous system analogy, the AI brain might use probability to decide, hey, I think there's a pedestrian ahead, I should hit the brakes.
Okay.
But once that decision is made, the QNX nervous system guarantees that the electrical signal reaches the brakes instantly, without any interference from the car's other systems.
And the real-world applications of this are already happening, and it's not just cars either.
No, right on.
The sources highlight what they call General Embedded Wins, or GEEM. Listen to the specific detail. Johnson & Johnson selected QNX for a new AI-enabled heart pump.
A literal heart
A
pump.
literal heart pump. You do not want the software running a heart pump to guess what the best heart rate should be.
No, the stakes literally do not get higher than a medical device keeping someone alive. The fact that Johnson & Johnson chose the QNX OS for safety just entirely validates the deterministic foundation BlackBerry has built.
It really does.
It shows that major manufacturers trust QNX to act as the essential, flawless safety layer underneath the AI in the physical world.
Okay, so they've built the ultimate architecture of trust for physical machines. But, a machine is only as safe as the instructions it receives.
Right.
If someone hacks the network and tells that autonomous car to steer into oncoming traffic, or tells the heart pump to just stop, all that physical safety doesn't matter at all.
Exactly.
So how is BlackBerry securing the network side of the equation?
Well, that logical leap takes us directly to BlackBerry's other major division, secure communications. For a while, this division was facing some headwinds, but the Q4 data shows a dramatic shift in momentum.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Secure Communications brought in $72.5 million in Q4.
Yeah.
That's an 8% year-over-year increase, and the report makes a point to note it's their first quarter of growth since Q1 of fiscal year 25.
And they even achieved a near Rule of 40 quarter themselves with a 27% adjusted EBITDA margin. So they completely flipped the script.
So what is causing the sudden surge in demand for secure networks?
The report points to a very specific geopolitical driver. They call it digital sovereignty. This concept has shifted from being like a theoretical discussion at tech conferences into a heavily funded, budgeted reality.
Let's break down the mechanics of digital sovereignty. It's basically a government saying, we refuse to let our classified data, our military communications, or our digital infrastructure run through servers controlled by another country.
Or even a massive multinational tech company, yeah.
Right.
That is the core of it. And BlackBerry's SecuSuite product line enables this on a technical level. Instead of just slapping an encryption protocol on top of a standard commercial network, BlackBerry allows governments to physically host the data centers and hold the encryption keys entirely within their own borders.
Oh, wow. So a foreign intelligence service cannot compel a backdoor into the system because the local government has total end-to-end control of the infrastructure.
Exactly. And with rising global tensions and expanding defense budgets, countries across Europe, Canada, and NATO allies are actively writing checks to enforce this level of sovereignty.
And BlackBerry is perfectly positioned to cash those checks. What stood out to me in the sources is how incredibly sticky this government business is. Once you are embedded in a nation's defense infrastructure, you do not get ripped out easily.
Oh, the switching costs are astronomically high.
Right, and the crazy part about that is the sheer scale of the contracts they are landing. The sources point to a massive multi-year contract extension with Shared Services Canada, significantly increasing their deployment of SecuSuite.
Yes, and they also highlight strong deployments of SecuSmart with the German government, backed by very specific, rigorous security certifications there.
It's massive.
The report emphasizes that because these platforms are mission critical, BlackBerry is actually buffered against general government spending uncertainty.
Ah, I see what you mean.
Right, like if a country faces an economic downturn and cuts its budget, they might cancel a highway project. But they cannot afford to shut down the secure communication lines of their top military personnel.
It is the absolute last thing to be defunded.
Exactly.
Which gives BlackBerry this incredible defensive foundation of recurring revenue. Speaking of which, their annual recurring revenue for secure comms hit $218 million.
Wow.
And let's quickly explain this metric they highlight. Their dollar-based net retention rate ticked up to 94%.
Right, so that essentially means that if you look at their existing government and enterprise clients from last year, not only are the vast majority of them sticking around, but they are maintaining or even expanding their contracts year over year.
It proves client satisfaction and deep integration. Which, brings us to the ultimate question for any turnaround story.
the financials.
Right. We've established they have incredible technology running cars, medical devices, and classified government communications. We know how it works. But does this translate to a sustainable, financially healthy business overall? Because the best technology in the world can still go bankrupt.
It's true. Show me the financial proof. The technology is fascinating. But if the balance sheet is on fire, the turnaround is just a mirage.
So what do the numbers say?
Well, the financial synthesis in this April 2026 report is genuinely impressive. Let's look at the full fiscal year 2026. The GAAP net income, which is the strictest, most standardized measure of profitability, improved from a $79 million loss the previous year to a $53.2 million gain.
Wait, so they swung the pendulum by over $130 million?
Yeah. And it wasn't a one-off accounting trick or the sale of an asset. This marks their 8th consecutive quarter of GAAP net income improvement. They're systematically getting leaner and more profitable.
That is incredible.
Furthermore, their balance sheet is a fortress. They have $432.4 million in total cash and investments. And when you subtract their debt, they're sitting on $232.4 million in pure net cash.
Okay, almost $250 million in net cash just sitting there.
Yep.
That's not just a vanity metric, right? That is survival fuel. If you are selling to governments and legacy automakers, your sales cycles are going to take years. You need a massive cash runway to survive those negotiations without going under.
Absolutely.
But what is management actually doing with all this cash to prove to the market that they truly believe this turnaround is complete?
They are executing an aggressive stock buyback program.
Oh, okay.
The sources indicate that since May 2025, BlackBerry has repurchased 15.5 million of their own shares, spending $60 million to do so.
So what does this all mean? If I'm looking at a company that just finished a brutal decade-long turnaround and the CEO decides to spend $60 million buying back their own stock, that tells me management thinks Wall Street is completely mispricing them. Am I reading that right?
You are. They state it clearly in the presentation. The program reflects their confidence in the stock's intrinsic value.
Intrinsic value, right.
Management is looking at their internal projections. They're looking at the $950 million QNX royalty backlog that hasn't hit the income statement yet.
Yeah.
They're looking at the sticky government contracts, and they're deciding the public markets just don't understand the new BlackBerry yet.
So they are buying their own shares at a discount to create shareholder value.
Precisely. And looking ahead, they are projecting even more growth to back up that confidence. In their fiscal year 27 guidance, they expect total revenue to climb to between $584 and $611 million next year.
Wow.
They expect QNX to keep growing, secure communications to keep growing, and total adjusted EBITDA to reach between $110 and $130 million.
So they aren't predicting a plateau after this exhausting pivot. They are predicting an acceleration.
It creates a remarkable financial picture that entirely validates John Giammatteo's opening claim. The painful transition phase, the restructuring, the search for a new identity, that era is officially over. They have found their footing, achieved the Rule of 40 in their automotive division, and are generating real cash.
It really makes you sit back and rethink how we interact with technology and how quickly we write off brands. You go about your day, and you assume certain companies are just relics. You think, BlackBerry, well, I haven't held one of those in a decade.
Right.
But you are only thinking that because you are looking at the palm of your hand.
The visibility of the company has fundamentally shifted from the consumer level down to the foundational level.
Exactly. This deep dive into their 2026 earnings is such a masterclass in corporate reinvention and surviving technological obsolescence.
It really is.
The devices you used to hold haven't disappeared. They've simply evolved into the invisible, mission-critical infrastructure running the world around you. When you are driving down the highway in a modern electric vehicle, BlackBerry is the nervous system ensuring the brakes work. When NATO allies are coordinating defense strategies, BlackBerry is securing the transmission. When a medical device is physically pumping a human heart using AI, BlackBerry is the safety net making sure it doesn't fail.
It is a profound shift from consumer hardware to global critical infrastructure. And, looking at their success leaves us with an interesting thought to mull over.
Oh, what's that?
Well, if a company that was so widely written off by the general public a decade ago can quietly reinvent itself into the foundational safety layer for the massive upcoming physical AI revolution, it makes you wonder, what other obsolete legacy brands are quietly building the infrastructure of tomorrow, right now, while we aren't even looking?
The child actor's back, they've got the Oscar, and they are directing the movie we are all living in. Fascinating stuff.